What up, Hyperchange? Welcome to another episode. Today we're going to talk about the gross margin impact of a successful launch of the Plaid Model S and Plaid Model X on Tesla. Why this is something I'm really excited about from a financial perspective. So we're going to nerd out on this. Shout out to the Third Row podcast. I came up with the idea for this episode. We were just recording and we're talking about this new track package that came out for the Model 3. It's like a $5,500 upgrade where you can basically get these really cool looking new tires for your performance Model 3. Which already costs 60 grand, and then you pay 5.5 grand more for these new tires and these brake pads, which are geared to make it perform better on the track. It's gotten some awesome reviews, so that's a really cool thing. And I was just thinking, like, wow, there's so much opportunity for Tesla as sort of this luxury performance brand to upsell all of these fancy new features and services that sort of diehard fans and like Tesla nerds would love. And the track package is one example, but what I think is an even bigger example of this trend, and what's really going to happen in late 2020 is when Tesla comes out with the Plaid Model S and X. I think we could see a huge boom in sales of those vehicles, which will drive significant growth in gross profit for Tesla, because I think these are the most high margin products Tesla sells. And part of this video is me encouraging Tesla to charge an extremely high price for these vehicles. So the Model S and X, before you could spec out to like $140,000, $150,000 originally, but since then they brought the pricing down. The starting price point's around $80,000. They have less variants. You can't even max it out to much over $100,000. And frankly, I think Tesla's leaving a little bit of money on the table here. The Model S and X sales have been declining in 2019 because I think the products are getting a little stale, or that product line's getting a little stale. Additionally, we have the Model 3, a much cheaper Tesla coming on board, cannibalizing a lot of sales. But rumors have it, and Elon has basically confirmed that Tesla's going to upgrade at least the Model S, my guess is the Model X as well, with this tri-motor Plaid, basically performance Plaid powertrain, which Elon has described as like alien technology. This is going to be the craziest performance Tesla ever. This is the performance Tesla. They were running around the Nürburgring track. That's sort of when this all came to light, that Tesla was working on this next generation Model S. And so I think from a financial perspective, what's going to happen is, as much as like the Model Y is exciting and they're entering this big category, like Tesla nerds, like I'm thinking of Soft from the Third Row Tesla podcast, who has like 5 Teslas, always needs to have the ludicrous mode one that goes, the fastest possible. It's like people who love Apple and are obsessed with Apple always need, the biggest, newest phone with the most cameras and the most lenses. I'm looking at my iPhone with 3 cameras right now, and I'm just thinking of this, but I just think there's so much tech product OCD and just people wanting to get the newest thing. And I think there's been so much sort of pent-up or Osborning that's been occurring, where people have been waiting to buy the Model S and X because they know there's sort of this update coming. And I think when this happens, there's going to be like a wave of orders for this Plaid Model S and X. They're going to sell as many as they can make for probably a year or so at least. And I mean, just to crunch some numbers with you guys, Tesla's Model gross margin has sort of been going down recently with the introduction of the Model 3 and these lower priced Model S and X, hitting about 18 or 19% in the past 2 quarters. Well, historically, Tesla said that it could hit, high 20%, maybe even 30% gross margins, especially for these Model S and X, and that's where gross margins were before they introduced the Model 3. So when they come out this new Plaid Model S and X, I think Tesla's I hope they charge like 150, 160, 170 grand for, 400 miles of range, unbelievable performance, better cooling technology on the battery so it can do this track, the Nürburgring style track, better than a Porsche. And I think so many people are going to buy it. Sales could go actually over 100,000, reaching new highs for Model S and X. And the gross margins on those sales could be 30%, which will boost the entire gross margin of Tesla. Just to put this in context, why I'm so excited that, from a volume perspective, Model S and X aren't going to sell much, but from a profit perspective, this is a real needle mover. Just to crunch some numbers, 150,000 times 50,000 vehicles at 30% gross margin is over $2 billion in incremental gross profit. If you look at Tesla's gross profit here on Hypercharts, their annual gross profit for the past 2 years has been around $4 billion. And so a lot of that is already coming from Model S and X, but just $2 billion in incremental gross profit from sales of 50,000 of these new Plaid mode vehicles. If they sell 100,000 cars at $150,000 per car with a 35% gross margin, just to run some numbers here, then we're talking about over $5 billion in incremental gross profit, which would be more than the entire Tesla's ever done in a year as a company. And so when you think about Tesla's ability for pricing power here, as people want the newest Tesla, the ability to charge in the mid $150,000 range, how there's so much pent-up demand, I think in Q3 and Q4, whenever they launch this Plaid Model S and Model X, which we're probably going to get way more details on Battery Day, I think the second they launch this, sales of those vehicles are going to go through the roof. I'm hoping they have a very high margin on those sales, and that could seriously drive gross profit and overall profitability for Tesla coming into late 2020 and early 2021 as these roll out and hit volume. And this is something that I think not enough people are realizing, and Tesla's sort of been penalized from a profitability standpoint for the past year or so as people wait for this new Model S and X, and as sales have dipped of their most profitable vehicles. And as you can see in the gross margin chart, that's really affecting the overall gross margins of the company. But now, we have stabilization of Model 3 pricing and Model Y pricing. Like last year, they had to introduce all these cheaper models that brought down gross margins overall for the company. That's no longer happening. We're gonna have more economies of scale with production. So I think the gross margin of the Model 3 is gonna improve significantly this year. And additionally, you have this gross margin, volume perspective, and gross margin of Model S and X improving dramatically. And I think this is a huge gross profitability driver coming in 6 to 9 months for Tesla. So that's just some food for thought. I feel like not enough people are pricing this in or thinking about this, but I think this is a huge money-making opportunity for Tesla. Like even thinking about the Roadster, which they're selling for 250 grand, is outperforming, hyper cars that are worth $1 million or $2 million. Tesla, you should be charging 500 grand for this Roadster. Like, let's make margin on these vehicles to subsidize R&D, to boost the profitability of the company, to invest in other projects. I just think that's the smart move here, and I'm really excited to see how this all unfolds. Total speculation for now. Nothing is official from Tesla yet on pricing or margins or even timing or even really official delivery of these vehicles or even if they actually exist. But of course, I'm making a video about it. Would love to know what you think in the comments below. Plaid mode, Model S, X, when are they coming out? What's the gross margin going to be? What's the price going to be? Leave it below. Huge shout out to our Patreon producers supporting the channel. I'll see you guys next time.